Hey everyone. Thanks for having me today. As I was introduced, Matt Barron, Solution Engineering Manager at Snowflake. Today we'll be talking a little bit about the Snowflake Financial Services Data Cloud, which is, our umbrella for both content, but as well as technology within Snowflake. And then we'll talk about how that's leveraged to tackle geospatial use cases, and then a little bit with how we partner with CARTO to really make that special. So quick overview of this Snowflake AI Data Cloud. There's 4 real pillars, and it's a bit of a flywheel. The first bit is how you can source data quickly. This is from our marketplace, which allows you to get both data content, so relevant, census data, things like that we'll talk about a little later, but also applications like the CARTO native app can run directly in your Snowflake environment on your data, as well as the ability to easily ingest structured, semi-structured, and unstructured first-party data as well to bring alongside this external content you bring alongside it. The next is the powerful compute engine. Allows you to do traditional SQL-based analytics, but also run compute on Python or Java workloads, Scala workloads, you name it. And then lastly is sort of sharing your analysis back and turning those into your own data products, whether internally or externally as well. And so our architecture is really what makes all this possible. I always go back to the Snowflake roots of the separation of storage and compute. A lot of folks have followed suit in doing so, and this is sort of the modern cloud architecture. Now with, at the center, we call it interoperable storage, whether that's, using our native format, that's bringing Iceberg or Delta Lake data, and then bringing whatever compute resources you need to do the job. So traditional CPU, also now GPUs, and then the ability to scale up and scale out as you need it. And one unified governance layer, most importantly, so you don't have a different governance model as you access data through all these various paradigms I was just talking about. So you govern once, analyze in many different ways. That's how I like to think about it. And so as we think of how we go from data to a data strategy, this comes down to removing data bottlenecks is really the most important thing, and want to spend more time doing data identification, discovery, and access, and supporting whatever data architecture makes sense for your business, whether that's a lakehouse architecture or a data mesh architecture or whatever that might be. Let's remove technology from that discussion and think about what makes sense for your business based on how you're structured and the goals you're trying to accomplish. And with that, you need sort of a lot of the things I was talking about, which is various, programming interfaces, various compute types, as well as unified governance, security, entitlements, lineage, all of the important things that make up the data strategy. Snowflake brings that together in one easy-to-use managed service. And so why specifically for financial services? It's that single platform with the management and governance at its core. That's particularly important for regulated industries like financial services. We have a really rich ecosystem of data. So you have the likes of LSEG Refinitiv, S&P Global, but you also have lots of important alternative, they call them, data sources in financial services like weather or foot traffic data or whatever it might be that you want to blend with traditional market data to do what you want to do. I've harped on it, but security and governance at the core, a really robust RBAC model that sits across all of the various ways you want to access and use data. And then it's back to the single platform, but it's that interconnected global ecosystem. So Snowflake runs on all 3 major public clouds, AWS, Azure, and GCP, across most of their major data center regions, which allows businesses in whatever cloud platform they've worked on to collaborate with what we call SnowGrid. And so that's what really connects it all and makes that content available in a true zero copy capacity. And here's a nice picture of the financial services data cloud. We have, the types of people that exist in the ecosystem there. We have a bunch of the different data sources, apps, now foundational models, system integrator partners, and then most importantly, the outcomes we can help power, all stacked up. And you can get a picture of what that ecosystem actually is, who's a part of it, and whether that makes sense for you and your business to participate in as well. So I know today I'm spending most of the time talking about financial services use case, but I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Snowflake powers at basically every major vertical that exists out there, and then can do that through a geospatial lens as well. So whether you're in healthcare, a government, a transportation business, Snowflake's used across all of those. And we do have very similar industry data clouds for all of those as well. So if you're interested in those, come find me or someone else from Snowflake to talk about that after this as well. So now I'm going to spend the bulk of this presentation actually going into a few specific use cases that I find particularly interesting, that I see customers doing on a day-to-day basis. I personally work with one of the largest banks in the world and help them power their geospatial use cases, but have witnessed a lot of others across our teams as well. The first is portfolio management. And so you think of this having the goal of being able to do due diligence on your existing assets, but also on net new assets as well. And so when you think about attacking that problem, you're sort of like, what do I need to do that? First, that comes down to the content. So that's things like census data, demographic data, criminological data as well, to be able to do all this and bring it together, analyze your portfolio, understand where you have gaps in your portfolio, understand where there's risks in an investment based on shifts, and being able to visualize that in a map-like capacity and hone in on specific things is really important. And so that's where, being able to leverage Snowflake functions around, isochrones and things like that, to be able to do that analysis very natively and not needing to move your data into a very specific and siloed geospatial system to do that analysis. One, makes it really easy, but two, you can blend lots of other traditional business data alongside it. So now I want to understand and look at, my revenues by my locations and things like that, can all sit really nicely because we can represent things like geometries and geographies in a structured data capacity alongside very traditional structured data of strings and integers and dates and things like that, and using that one governed query engine to access all of that. And then CARTO is obviously an amazing visualization tool that runs natively on top of your Snowflake data, leveraging all those functions, and they even bring a bunch more functions alongside it to help you do that as well, to help accomplish this as well. Sorry, could you make it a little bigger? Thank you. I just can't see my notes. Sorry, guys. The next one I want to talk about is risk analysis. And so you take a big insurance company that wants to mitigate risk in their portfolio, and they need to be able to overlay, various, flood lines and other things like that alongside their properties. This is only becoming more and more important. People are figuring out, can I even insure this region anymore or not? And, Snowflake works with one of the largest insurance brokers out there to do these very analyses today. They're able to get all of this sort of data and then specifically leverage the H3 quadrants to do that analysis. That's all, again, natively built into Snowflake. Those analyses can run right on your data. You don't need to move it to another system that allows for that. You don't need to re-govern it. You don't need to have, only the small slice you want to put in that system there. It's, again, all the other information about your business alongside it that helps you do proper risk calculations and really start trying to move away from a reactive risk analysis approach and be a lot more predictive and proactive in how you're mitigating and managing that risk. The last one I want to talk about is one I've actually been piloting with a big bank recently, is customer reviews sentiment analysis. And so if you think about going beyond just, hey, everyone gave me a 1 through 5 and here's my CSAT score, and we do that, I can start to break that down if I'm a bank by branch and visualize that. And do I have a geographic problem or is it a branch problem? Like, do we have unhappy customers in the Northeast? And can I see these trends live? Can I overlay other information whether it's macroeconomic data or something else that might be actually driving that, instead of I have a really mean branch manager, and help me make better decisions about what's going on with that. And then this has sort of been taken to the next level in the age of AI. I made it pretty far in the presentation without talking about that, but that's where Cortex, our LLM suite, comes into play and allows you to run very easy sentiment analysis with our built-in AI SQL, and be able to take the unstructured text that comes from these CSATs, create more structured attributes that can be visualized and overlay along the layout, in this case of a map, and be like a heat map, for example, of this. And these become very easy, continuous, and now even real-time pipelines as people are getting text messages, tell me about your visit today. And that's all flowing in, and you're able to sort of monitor this stuff in real time. Are we having a bad day at this site? And is there something we can do about it? We can get a lot more proactive than these, forms getting, combed through. We read about it, and weeks or months later, we start to try to take action of what happened back 2 months ago. No one really remembers. But if that day we're noticing in the moment, we're making a call, we're putting a human component to all this, but able to sort of get to the bottom of problems and move the business forward in the direction we need. And that's like a really cool and practical way that AI is being used in the real world, alongside geospatial data to solve, real problems. And so the last thing I have here today is a little bit of just sort of how this works alongside CARTO, and Snowflake in general. So I've talked about Snowflake has, easy ingestion mechanisms. We now have Snowflake OpenFlow, which is a really nice open framework to ingest unstructured and structured data into the Snowflake platform. We host all of the major foundational models, so the likes of Anthropic, OpenAI, the Mistral models, the Llama models, you name it, are all run natively within the secure boundary of Snowflake. So your data never leaves as you want to use and do inference with those models. And then we have, what's it called? The native app from CARTO that can run directly there. So you can procure that from the Snowflake marketplace, use their visualization layer directly on your own Snowflake compute and your governance model, without any data having to leave as well in order to do that. And then CARTO's also, has all sorts of workflows and things that make this very actionable. So you can take the insights and drive them into action as well. And so if you have any questions on Snowflake, on geospatial analytics within Snowflake, and want to learn more, I have a little time for questions now. And also, please come find me afterwards. Thank you all.